Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Glenn Mills. It is time to go inside Utah politics. We do begin this morning with Jason Perry. He's the director of the Hinckley Institute of Politics. Jason, welcome back to the show. Always glad to have you with us.
Glad to be with you, Glenn.
Quite a bombshell dropped during the week on that draft report from the Supreme Court and their decision on Roe v. Wade. Here's my question for you. When you take a look at this year historically, it would tell you that Republicans are in for a good general election. But could this potentially change the trajectory of that?
So it could, and this could be so interesting going into the primaries, but also into the midterms. And there's a lot of speculation about why it was the person that did this, and it is going to have an impact on this election cycle without question. Of course, the Republicans are going to say that they were fighting for this from the very beginning. This is just a sign that they're having some sort of impact, and they will campaign on that issue for sure. The Democrats are going to say this is exactly why you must show up and vote for us. And what you said is exactly right. Many were speculating because of some stalled agenda items from President Biden. The Democrats nationwide might be having some issues going into the midterms. This could be the catalyst that gets these voters energized and to the polls. And both sides are going to find a way to maximize the opportunity out of this leak. And you're right, it is a bombshell. This is an unprecedented event, and it was intended to have an impact on the election. I think it will.
Okay, we will watch and see how that plays out. Let's dig deeper into our primary election now here in the state of Utah. And let's start with the race for Senate. Senator Lee going for another term. Two challengers on the primary ballot. What are polls telling us?
Well, not a lot of polling has been done since the convention that we had, which was so interesting. So let's talk about that for just a moment. And I know you were following this so closely. We've talked about this. Mike Lee got about 70% of the votes at the convention, 12% for Becky Edwards. Allie Isom was about 10%. And this is on the heels of some polling that we have done from the Hinckley Institute of Politics that gave a pretty substantial lead to Senator Mike Lee. He was just under 70% in the last poll. We'll start polling now that the field has been narrowed to 3, but this is the race to watch in the state of Utah, and particularly getting to this primary on June 28th, because this is the first time we've seen 3 candidates just kind of splitting the vote. So we're going to watch this one very closely.
We saw some new developments recently as well. Allie Isom coming out and calling on Becky Edwards to get out of the race, saying she's the one that can win this. First off, give us your assessment on how the two of them on the ballot will play out, and then what you make of Isom making that call.
Yeah. Right now it seems clear that those two are taking votes from each other. They're fighting for the same segment of the political spectrum. And so really people are talking about which one should back out if they're going to and throw support behind the other one. I'll tell you, neither one of them seem to be showing an indication that they're willing to do that. So it kind of gets to people saying, well, why did Allie Isom, since she's kind of polling lower than Becky Edwards, not just on the statewide polling, but also in terms of how she came out at convention, people are saying, why are you doing this? And really, I think the reason is politics is why they're doing it. She was able to control a news cycle. She's been able to keep her name relevant because she put out that question. And of course, as you know, she got an immediate response from Becky Edwards talking about the polling and who's best to take on Mike Lee. We're going to see this going back and forth a bit all the way to the primary if they both do stay in. And right now, neither one is saying they're going to back out.
Yeah, that's how it appears it's going to stay through the primary as well. Every House member, incumbent, also locked in a primary election, either by convention or signatures. Are you expecting any surprises there?
No, not really expecting a surprise. You know, we have two members of Congress, Congressman Moore and Congressman Burgess Owens. Both are up for re-election for the first time. So one would say this is the time when they are most vulnerable if they're going to be. But polling has been showing both of them very strong going into this election cycle. And it's just so interesting to see these competitors coming out of the woodwork too. And you know, when I look at what this signals for the future, this is really a commentary on the signature gathering process itself. You know, all these candidates did not do perfectly well in the convention. We see like Congressman Curtis, for example, against Chris Herrod again, one more time, not coming out on top at convention, but going into his 3rd try against Chris Herrod in this primary. And even he, I'm going to say, is going to get a substantial amount of the vote, just like he has in the last couple of rounds.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by Representative Curtis's move not to gather signatures, but he put his faith in the delegates, and he did get to primary election. If you take a look back on his races, it's kind of interesting. The very first one was that special election to replace Representative Chaffetz. He wouldn't have even got out of convention, but he gathered signatures. Then he started building trust and votes with the delegates to the point in 2020 where he made it through without a primary. And then now it is back to losing convention this year. What do you make of that up and down, back and forth?
Well, you called it exactly right. It's so interesting. He is congressman right now. Some will speculate because Deidre Henderson, who was challenging him, did not get signatures, and he did. And you know, when he finally got to the general vote, he just did very, very well. Here's what I think, and you know, I haven't got this from him. I think he's not going to make that mistake again, if you call it a mistake at all. It's not really a question of whether you trust the delegates or not, even though that's the filter that many use. This is about, do you want to keep your office or not? And he's kind of proved the case right now. Maybe the thing to do is to do both. Go to the convention and get signatures. Mike Lee did, and they love him.
Yep, that's a very, very good point to make right there, no doubt about that. Okay, we saw a governor's approval rating across the country come out during the week by Morning Consult, ranking Governor Cox, Utah Governor Cox, as the 7th most popular in the country. Now, when you take a look at some of the things that have happened within the last couple of weeks, with the veto of HB 11, we saw him, you know, front and center on the Tucker Carlson show. Tucker Carlson taking aim at him and others, calling them rhinos. So, put this into perspective for us. What does this mean when you add all of that up?
Well, you just kind of have to take this up a little level in terms of how the state of Utah is doing itself. There are internal problems inside the Republican Party in the state of Utah. We have outside commentators taking shots at Governor Cox and our own party leader here. Carson Jorgensen, who runs the Utah Republican Party, also had some thoughts about that as well. But really, that is not manifesting itself as a problem through the rest of the state. Governor Cox, according to this poll, is the 7th most popular governor in the country, and it's a reflection of the state of Utah as well. Almost every ranking, from how we're recovering from COVID to the economy to schools, all of these are issues that are in the minds of voters when it goes into this rating, and the truth is Utah has done better than most. And I think Governor Cox is enjoying the reflection of that good planning and the efforts on behalf of the state, including him and all of our other legislative leaders.
So when we take a look at Republicans who speak out and say they're frustrated with him, do we then put them in the minority when it comes to this?
Well, I mean, this is on a couple of issues on a period of time. I think you really have to look at governors beyond just this month or so, particularly when you have the filter of COVID and the response over the last couple of years. These are very unique circumstances, and the party itself. Let's just talk about what happens when people go in the voting booth and when they're looking at their governors. There are certain issues, but often it's the party itself that they are supporting, and he is the standard bearer for the Republican Party.
All right, Jason, always appreciate your insight and perspective. We're so glad to have you on the show. Thanks so much for being here with us this morning.
Thank you, Glenn.
Coming up, May is Mental Health Awareness Month.